It was a rainy day. There were still two people standing in front of the injured protagonist, and he seemed to know these guys. The guy watching them walk away cursed them. These guys were happy to stab him in the heart. Those things betrayed him. The protagonist didn't even understand why. And suddenly he felt hot. Suddenly he began to open all of his eyes upon hearing about being called Emperor. He was held by the hand of a woman who also called him Emperor. He began to feel the body. There was an awkward silence. No one really expected to see the Emperor. People started talking about him faking his death. But the protagonist didn't even realize what kind of pretense they were talking about. The woman hugged him, talking about how he wasn't dead and that was a good thing. It was so soft that the guy realized he had touched her breasts. Suddenly he pushed her away. Afterward, the woman inquired as to what had happened. Mentally, he told himself to stop. The boy noticed that it wasn't his hands. He realized that he had been reborn into the body of a small child. He immediately got out of bed. He then noticed the water word and told him to stand still. He immediately saw his reflection in the water. The boy wondered if he hadn't died and become the Emperor's ghost. The woman called him Emperor again. The protagonist asked if she was really addressing him and what she had just called him. The woman replied that they call him Emperor. The protagonist asked what his name was. Suddenly everyone started bowing and talking about how they couldn't tell him about it. They were asking for his forgiveness. He immediately told them to get up. And also the guy mentioned that he didn't tell them to bow. He felt dizzy. The woman immediately decided to help him. The protagonist replied that it was okay and he let them say his name. The woman replied that the Emperor's name was Zhao Dongting. He realized that this name sounded very familiar to him. Suddenly, Zhao Dongting remembered that they learned it in their second year. This kid is the heir to the empire who died at a young age. He immediately grabbed the woman's clothes and asked what day it was. The girl replied that today was April 15th, the third year of their era. Wasn't today the very day the Emperor died of illness? He doesn't want to die, but this body is really sick. He also asked if they were now on Weichou Island. The girl replied that they were. He realized that in a few days he would be dead. The girl suddenly took his hand. She sees that the Emperor is not well. She also figures that they will find a doctor to examine him. His hand touched her breast. The protagonist recognized that this girl was very kind. If the Song dynasty disappears, she too will die then. But he won't let an entire empire disappear. Suddenly it was announced that a special guest had arrived. It was a luxuriously dressed woman accompanied by several girls. She entered the Emperor's chambers. As it turned out, it was a concubine of the Sun Empire, which was the mother of the protagonist. She immediately held up her hand and asked her son how he was feeling. The boy thanked his mom for her concern and replied that he was fine, but he felt some weakness. The Emperor's mother immediately inquired about the weakness he was talking about. The guy also added that he has forgotten everyone except his mother. She immediately told the healer to come here now and check on her son. The healer was startled by the Emperor's mother's tone. He reached for the Emperor's hand with trembling hands. Even if it's an ordinary rogue who the protagonist has nothing to fear. The man reported to the Empress that the young Emperor had nothing serious and just had a weak body. The Empress Dowager noticed that his son said he had a weakness, so she inquired why. The healer suggested that it might be a disease of a corrupted spirit. It is a disease that penetrates the bones, which is why he is weak. The woman wondered at the same time why the healer had only discovered the disease now. It was a mistake, so the man asked for clemency. The woman ordered their execution. The healer was still screaming to be spared, but they were already being led away by the guards. But suddenly the protagonist shouted for her to stop. The Empress Dowager immediately turned her attention to her child and asked what was wrong. Zhao Dongting replied that doctors are watching people's health all the time. Therefore they are tired and may make mistakes. They were lucky her son decided to spare them. She told them to get out of her sight. They immediately bowed and thanked the Empress for sparing them. The boy was surprised that the Empress Dowager listened to him and thought that maybe he should just use her for his own purposes. Meanwhile, the woman told the maid to go get the cake. But then the guy realized that he has to achieve everything by his own efforts. First, he must learn everything about himself. He ordered his men to say something about him, but all of them only remained silent. The Empress Dowager explained that this guy is her son, and he has a very rare disease. They are trying to cure this disease. The rest shouldn't bother him. Everyone said with one voice that he was an emperor with a dragon body. The kid wrapped himself in a blanket and said he was a little tired, so he wanted to rest. The Empress Dowager ordered everyone to leave. The Empress Dowager also followed the rest of the people to give her son a rest. The guy realized he had to figure out what to do about his illness. The girl said for the emperor to rest and she would leave. The protagonist asked Yin Er to stay with him. She only smiled silently at that. It was night. There were also guards standing guard in the palace. The guy decided to listen to what was going on around himself. In turn, they will think he is asleep. The two men told each other to be quiet. The protagonist immediately heard their footsteps. One man bent down to wake the emperor. The guy grudgingly opened his eyes and asked who they were and what they wanted from him. The man inquired if the emperor could see what it was. They brought food for his body. But the boy didn't understand anything. These two minions came here to specially feed him. These people were beginning to bother him more and more. He gagged the nasty old man with food. That man immediately collapsed. The other man, who was holding the food in his hands, knelt down. He wanted to explain himself somehow, but the main character yelled for him to shut his trashy mouth. He started quoting that they had decided to feed him this rather interesting food, especially the food they put poison in. The man asked that the emperor spare them. They would never dare to make an attempt on his life. He could spare them if they told him who ordered them to harm him. But suddenly the man who had just gotten up decided to strangle the protagonist. The man shouted to his second accomplice to help him quickly. He needs to think of something immediately because he can't just die like that. A pillow was placed sharply on his face. The man screamed for him to just die. Two more people rushed into the emperor's chambers and asked what had happened. They saw the emperor being attacked, so they immediately followed to protect him. They immediately took the men who had surrounded him. The man was preparing to bare his sword. He was about to kill him when he heard the voice of the main character talking about not killing him. He immediately stopped his blade and asked the emperor what was wrong. Zhao Dongting said to stop. So this man was just knocked out. He immediately asked the emperor if he was all right, but he didn't even notice that he was already being swung at, and the main character shouted for him to be careful, for he had someone standing behind him. But it was too late. He immediately asked what he wanted. The attacker said this boy won't die, he'll just go to heaven. The main character was very pleased that this man cared about him so much. He just wanted to become famous by killing a 9-year-old boy. There's nothing more he can say. It wasn't meant to be. He didn't even realize what that sound had just been. Now he saw everything in front of his eyes. Meanwhile, the man sat in his office. He finally did it. He's going to leave with that baby today. The Empress Dowager was resting. She dreamed of the old days. And then she dreamed again of her only grown-up son calling her mom. The Empress Dowager woke up, not understanding how he was doing this. There are reports that Lord Yang is somehow suspicious, so the Empress Dowager must be vigilant. The Empress Dowager ordered that no one should be allowed into her palace. But the man who had just entered replied that it was the right decision. It was the same Yang. The Empress Dowager asked how he had come. The man replied that there was something he wanted to do. He showed her the Buddha statue. The Empress Dowager said she wanted a statue of Buddha, so he made one. The girl promised to leave with Lord Chang if he could get the Buddha statue. But suddenly the statue fell. The girl picked up the statue and replied that it was all very nice, but she could not leave her son. Buddha helped him. The man asked if the emperor had awakened. The woman replied that he has lost his memory and does not know what was and what will be. He will gradually understand. The emperor will certainly be fine. Suddenly this same lord shouted that he was scum, for it didn't work. He punched the man in the face. Also, the lord has ordered it to be done tonight. If they don't kill him, one more failure, and this man will die himself. That's why he can fail. Lord Yang wanted to become great and destroy this pathetic emperor. Yinner immediately came to his rescue. The girl immediately took his hand and asked the emperor what was wrong. The guy shook the sheet and replied that it was nothing. He immediately stood up and reached for his sword. The girl didn't realize it was a sword at first. The protagonist told her to wake up those eunuchs. She followed his orders. The protagonist, threatening with his sword, ordered to confess who told them to poison Zhao Dongting. They looked among themselves and replied that they were not allowed to say that. The kid ordered me to kill one. His accomplice had already died in front of him. So Paris again inquired whether he would answer or not. The man confessed that it was General Jan Vanley who ordered the poisoning of the emperor, and the main character immediately wondered if it was the same old man with a mustache. The girl repeated that the person who planned to kill the emperor was Yang Wanli. The protagonist asked how dare he even lie. The man replied that he would not have dared to lie to the emperor. He also added that Yang Wanlu had been ordered to do so. Meanwhile, they were already preparing a new plan. They locked the door and put oil on the fire. The boy wondered if Jan had a mentor, so who wants to kill him after all? Suddenly they heard something. Yinner replied that it was locked, and the protagonist checked that all the doors were locked. They set fire to the emperor's palace. He covered his nose. He needs to get out of here any way he can. Suddenly, a charred piece of wood started falling on the protagonist. It was a wooden stick that fell and pinned what was underneath it. The girl asked if they were still alive, but the others confirmed that everyone else was dead. She said she had to tell her boss that everyone was dead. Others have begun to put out the palace. for the emperor is still inside. They must carry water and put out the fire. Meanwhile, Yinner vowed to protect the emperor, and after a while he finally woke up. He immediately shouted out the name Yinyer. The girl carried a bowl of water and answered the emperor that she was here. The protagonist also inquired as to where they were now. She explained that this village was a Ligia village. Liang Yang led them. Fortunately, she managed to save the emperor from being killed. Last night, he accidentally lost consciousness. Throwing herself into the fire, she was only able to save the protagonist. Before she left, she faked his death. A man arrived who was glad that Ms. Yinner's brother had finally woken up. Yinner asked the man why he bought you a lot of meat so suddenly. Liang Yang explained that her brother looked like a skinny monkey, so he needed to eat and lots of meat. Suddenly they heard shouts for those in the house to surrender quickly, or he would drag him out and kill his entire family. They were brigands. Her husband hadn't returned yet, so she decided to hide the boys. She told Xiao Du and Xiao Ding not to speak loudly. The little girl asked if mommy wasn't going to hide. Lao Zhu demanded that this old woman hurry up and give up all her good things. A woman came out to them with a basket. He immediately snatched the basket from her and began to eat the meat. It was delicious and fresh. She hopes it will be enough. But unfortunately, the bacon Lao Tzu hates the most. He had his brothers clean her out. After that, they left. The children immediately ran to their mom. The little girl asked her mom to get up. This world is so hard to live in. Suddenly, the main character started getting stoned. The girl blamed them for coming to her mom's house. If they hadn't been here, nothing would have happened. The man decided to take his children home and told those to get out of here. Yinner suggested looking for another safe place. But what safe place could we even talk about if someone in the palace wanted to kill him? The Yuan army has been wiped out. Bandits are furiously robbing the mountain villages. The common people can't live. So where could this safe place even be? Since he is the emperor, he has decided everything. Since there is no safe place in the whole world, he will create one himself. He wants to return to the palace. In the garden of the royal palace, they were discussing whether what they said was true or not. They replied that the younger one would never have dared to lie to them. The stranger in the cape said they would go to Parliament Hall tomorrow morning. They will also go. They were discussing the fact that, unfortunately, Emperor Zhao had died. The Yuan country that heard about it immediately declared war. And to prevent bloodshed, his successor Zhao Wei will take over as emperor. The boy was about to take the treasure when they were suddenly stopped. The man turned around and asked who said that, who dared to interrupt them in the Hall of Parliament. This brave man definitely wants to take over as emperor. He is apparently starting to emulate the Wu clan. Also, like them, he wishes to destroy 2 emperors to do so. They began to explain that it was a misunderstanding. The Empress Dowager immediately shouted her son's name. She was glad her son was okay. Big wondered if it was really his mother. Lord Yang didn't understand why the lousy man had survived. He was able to survive and return to the palace to please his mother. Lord Yang accused him of being a rascal who wanted to gain all power by pretending to be the dead emperor. But the emperor himself was dead. He had seen it with his own eyes. So the man said, "Hold this impostor. The fish is hooked." The man said that Lord Yang is an ordinary officer. This man that is his mentor does not approve of this manner of speech of the officer. And how dare he even dare to tell the temperature that he is a fake? He apologized for his mistakes. The man explained that he was just worried because the Queen Mother and the others had been tricked by the fake emperor. How dare Yang Yudong speak such disrespect to the emperor? He dares to speak such irrational words. He should kneel down now. The man immediately said that the subordinates were stupid and disrespectful to his majesty. He apologized to the emperor. The guards they had so long ago held the protagonist as well kneeled and begged for forgiveness as well as mercy for their lives. Their emperor was safe. Heaven had surely blessed them. But the protagonist is still alive, not because of heaven. The rebels who tried to kill him and those thieves who invaded his land during the Sun Dynasty will never be forgiven. The Empress Dowager was surprised that this all happened to him not because of the fire. If he didn't know who had hurt him, there was no need to worry, for his mother would take care of everything. But the guy told his mom to calm down and he will solve the problem himself. The Empress Dowager should go home and rest for a few days. Guy deeply hopes his mom doesn't go against him. It's a very good thing her son is grown. Mom loves him. Zhao Wei wanted to touch the relic, but the Empress Dowager stopped him in time. She told the boy not to do anything, otherwise he would pay for it with his head. She also told those boys to help the emperor rebuild their nation. Xu Liuyi, Zhang Shijie, and Lu Shufu will follow her orders. The protagonist sat on the throne of the emperor. Everyone was clamoring for the emperor's long life. Zhao Dongting also inquired about what happened when he left. The guard Yue Peng, who is a guard of the infantry division, came to report. The protagonist allowed him to do so. He explained that the matter had to do with the Emperor's power. The guy swept up so he could just say it. Julia Penn reported that they found a lot of something valuable in Yang Yidong's house. Specifically, they found a great many portraits of the Queen Mother. Lord Yang began to make excuses for the man's lying. He would never do such a thing in his life. He's not at liberty to say this, but it's a portrait they found. There was the nearly naked body of the Empress Dowager. The protagonist immediately got angry and told the bastard to avert his eyes. A man asked how he could be convicted because of a paper portrait. First, he must get rid of the problem. But the man was immediately punched in the face. Lu Shufu replied that Yang Yudong was too bold. He didn't even think about the emperor's feelings. Lord went on to make excuses that he didn't do it. He was set up. Now this man is trying to embarrass the Empress Dowager. And Lord Lu wondered what other reasons he would come up with. Yang Yudong replied that he was just a guard who had entered his room. Definitely, he was set up by this man. This man certainly can't set him up, Lu Shufu asked as he walked into the room to get the portrait. The guy had picked up on the fact that Lord Yang had already said that he painted portraits. So the protagonist at least wanted to look at them. Yang Yudong thought that this child was careless and this would help him. So he decided to show him his portraits. It was grandfather who decided to change the portraits to deliver it to the emperor. As it turned out, Yinyer asked Grandpa Li to later replace Yang Yudong's portrait with this one. The protagonist asked if Master Yang had painted portraits of the Guanyin statue. Yang Yudong replied that it was true. Ever since he was a child, he had loved sculpting and drawing. He drew a figure by Guanyin and also carved a statue by Guanyin. The reason why she is mistaken for an empress is because in fact the Empress Dowager herself is like a Guanyin. This is a statue of Guanyin that he carved. He sat His Majesty down to take a look at it. Other people started asking if she really looked like the Empress. It's more like a misunderstanding. Did Yue Peng really think this trick would work? This young Yang Yudong doesn't have the slightest bit of brains. But he has watched quite a few palace dramas. The protagonist doesn't just want to kill him. He wants this man to die like a dog. The protagonist handed over the portrait and replied that he was still young and didn't quite understand the picture. So he asked the man to look at it and help him. They immediately looked at this picture and the man was just furious. He was immediately slapped in the face and told that he was very brave for daring to draw such a vile thing. And after that, he dared to show its temperature. He should be chased away and cut to pieces. He was sure that it was clearly a drawing of a Guanyin statue, so he didn't understand how they could talk about her being so vile. But this painting was also found signed by him. So what other excuse could she possibly have? After seeing this drawing, he just couldn't understand how it was possible. He bowed and reported to the emperor that it was not his drawing. Someone had imitated his signature and wanted to harm him. A humble man like him wouldn't dare to do such a thing. This drawing is definitely not his. They talked about how they should chase this man away and cut off his head. The other man also agreed that this demon should be chased away and killed. He is cunning and crafty, so they should not listen to his words. The protagonist is ordered to do as the two ministers say. They should behead him immediately. The man held Yang Dui and told him not to move. Yang Du asked how dare he. He didn't understand how this could have happened at all. Officials have considered it vile for quite some time now. Yandun is just useless garbage. He's definitely going to die now. This is what happens if someone hurts the emperor. The man realized that it was all because of this dog emperor. If it wasn't for him, the Empress Dowager would have gone after him. Xiao Dongting asked what he was doing and told him to move. He immediately freed himself from the grip of the men. Does he really want to rise up and fight and show it by his actions? But the man only laughed off the joke. None of them supported him. From the beginning, they all hated him and just wanted to kill him. This emperor is only a 9-year-old child. So how can he even order hundreds of officials around? He accused the boy of being an emperor puppet from the beginning. The reason why they are still being persecuted by the Yuan dynasty is because this boy is still alive. If he dies, they will no longer need to fear the Yuan dynasty like they do now. It's a cocky rebel, talking utter nonsense. Still, following this 9-year-old doll makes absolutely no sense at all. He bared his sword. Yinner immediately asked if the emperor was all right. The man shouted that they should not give this rebel to avoid. No one understood why Yang Yudong had suddenly lost consciousness. The man also realized that he had lost his sword, but it was still there. This sword was just outside the Yang Yidong. Just then, Yang Yudong grabbed Minister Lu's sword and then struck a blow at the emperor. But he was suddenly rendered unconscious by the blow of an expert and whose identity was unknown. If it wasn't for him, the emperor would already be dead. But who was he? Li Yuanshu. The officials declared that Yang Yudong intended to kill the emperor, and his sin was unforgivable. They ordered this rebel to be dragged quickly. All of them bowed, saying that they were at fault. Minister Lu's sword was taken by Yang, and it almost led to disaster. Yang Yudong is a subordinate of the emperor, but he has failed him. This means they are incapable of discipline and are at fault, and the protagonist replied that the Sun Dynasty still needed all of them. He would spare them this time and hoped that they could continue to serve the country in the future. Yue Peng had solved Yang Yudong's affairs, and now the protagonist had promoted him to the rank of an officer of the Guards Infantry. Wang Wen did a great job as an escort, and he was promoted to deputy officer of the Guard Infantry. Everyone thanked His Majesty for his mercy. The emperor is truly magnanimous. Although young, Gan Luo conquered dozens of cities at the age of 12. Hu went into battle at the age of 17 and pursued the Huns into the Mobei and won. The northern barbarians, who exterminated his people, took over the mountains and rivers. His great empire is a big country, but only the west and east road to Guanan remained. They should not be discouraged. If they are ambitious, something can come true, and if they unite under the leadership of the protagonist, they can defeat them. A diligent man will not lose his life, but he will be brave enough to prevail. This young emperor has good sayings and just great motivation for his age. In addition to the west and east Guanan Road, they also have 1,000 loyal officials who will protect the dynasty at the cost of their lives. Also, someone named Guo Jian can rebuild their country with only 3,000 soldiers. As long as they all try their best, then they will definitely be able to destroy the Yuan dynasty. Everyone shouted out that they must destroy the Yuan army and the emperor would win. Fortunately, he had studied lectures and read many articles by ancient people. He apologized to Mr. Pu Sunlin for borrowing his suggestion. It's now April. If he does nothing, the first month of next year will be the beginning of the end of the Sun dynasty. The Southern Song dynasty already has iron cannons and weapons. If he can develop a safer and more powerful gunpowder, and then use better military training methods, then maybe the Yulian army will lose. But what can he even do that as a child? When Yang Yudong attacked him, there was nothing he could do. It would be good if he learned some fighting skills. The protagonist got a report that Yin didn't want to meet him. The protagonist told her to come in. The girl reported that the emperor must eat. Also, the guy remembered that Yin knew martial arts. Zhao Dongting revealed that he wanted to study martial arts with her. But she knows very little and the emperor had better let degenerate Yue and General Wang teach him. Yin's martial arts are as good as both of them. Of course, it's better to choose Yin than to let two smelly men teach him. So, he asked the girl to teach it to him. A man approached them and apologized, but he had something to say. And it was the old servant who hoped that the emperor might listen to him. The emperor was the most respected person in the Song dynasty. If he was on the battlefield, there are soldiers there fighting for him. Now that the Yang had been eliminated, His Majesty was surrounded by loyal men, and he didn't need to worry about his own safety. Therefore, it was unclear why His Majesty still wanted to learn martial arts. Starting small, clearing old mountains and rivers, they can turn things around. This is his favorite suggestion, just like Mengjiang Red General Yue Fei. He thinner wants to ride the battlefield like a general, go north to recover the lost land, and save the dynasty from crisis. Besides, his ancestors also went to the battlefield using sword and about their own skills. That's why he would like to study martial arts. The noble emperor was truly a blessing to the great Sum. This old servant is willing to sacrifice the temperature and his paltry power. Since the emperor wants to learn martial arts, he can watch this old servant's martial arts. He slammed the wall. The guy was scared, and the girl whispered something to him. Whether grandfather must have been the one who saved him this morning, and so he is grateful to him. Of course, his loyalty and skill are unappreciated, and he was the one who trained General Wang in martial arts. Well, he's just doing his duty as a servant. He will do his best to make his life useful to the emperor. The protagonist thought his martial arts was called the Flower of X, or the devilish art of sword-wielding. But it was all wrong. There he also asked what he needed to do first to practice this skill. But the old man remained silent. The Empress Dowager paused. She mentally apologized to her son for failing to protect him. The woman hadn't expected Yang Yudong to be such a bad person. The main character burst in on him, and the woman asked what was wrong. He immediately pulled his mother behind him, talking about how he wanted to show her something amazing. Everyone immediately greeted the emperor. The man also received good news last night. General Wang Daofu and Dutong Ling Zhen led the army to capture the city of Guangzhou. They agreed that this is just great news. Also abroad, the island of Zhou has been undermined. It is difficult to survive here and there is not enough food. He begs the emperor to lead the people and migrate to Yashan. Is this man thinking about dying as soon as possible? After all, in the story that the main character knows, this man almost died there. It was unclear why on earth Mr. Zhang had chosen this place. Yashan is located in the coastal waters of Guangzhou. If they stay there, they can get help from nature. If they use the slopes in Guangzhou, the soldiers can protect the people. Not surprisingly, in Yashan's history, the city of Guangzhou has already been invaded. Zhao Dongting asked, despite their predicament, if Mr. Zhang remembered everything he said in the council room. He did say they would destroy the Yuan dynasty. Did Mr. Zhang doubt his judgment? He immediately apologized to the emperor. But they have a shortage of soldiers and thieves like tigers. If they are attacked, how will this little island hold out? People agreed with what he was saying. The minister was still asking the emperor to move to Yashan. If they go there, they can survive. They don't have to stay here and die. The main character immediately told him to shut up. Who even told him they would die if they stayed here? If the Jun troops start attacking, of course, it will be very difficult to survive. But if the emperor stays alive, he will be able to recreate the Sun dynasty. The boy ordered him to grab him and hit him 10 times with a wooden stick on the spot. He asked for clemency. If they value their lives, they should listen. They should not even think that they are going to lose, much less that they need to run away. The ministers only sighed. The Empress Dowager asked the protagonist not to forgive Mr. Zhang. Zhao Dongting replied that he was about to take Mother to see the things he wanted to show her today. He ordered General Yeo to begin experimenting with new arrows. He carried out the emperor's orders. 2 people immediately rose to his defense, and Yinner asked if the emperor was all right. The protagonists replied that he was fine. He ordered to help the Empress Dowager. But the woman replied that she was fine too. The Empress Dowager began to wonder just how powerful the weapon he was testing was. They'll be able to find out when that smoke clears. This weapon was too powerful to leave such a mark. That was exactly what he wanted to show his mother. He also asked her what she thought of the power of the newly invented weapon. Now the Empress Dowager believed that their great empire would be saved. Everyone was praising the emperor. He only sighed. While it's pretty important, he won't let others do it in the future. His stomach also began to rumble. Afterward, the guy smelled candied pumpkin. He immediately approached the vendor who was selling the candy pumpkin. It's pretty complicated, the protagonist thought. Suddenly a horse and wagon were already bearing down on him, and the guy driving it was yelling to get out of the way. But suddenly there was a girl who took the main character. And whether the grandfather is their grandfather, he protected the emperor. The girl asked if he was okay. The boy replied that he was fine, and he blushed. Yue Peng immediately ran up to him, and the boy replied that he was fine. It was thanks to that little sister and Grandpa Li that saved him. But suddenly they both disappeared somewhere. The girl asked her sister to wait and take her time. The old man asked if the emperor was all right. The boy responded that he was fine and unhurt. That really hurt. Those dogs dared to get in the way of his streak. That bastard is definitely blind. He would even dare to bother Brother Jun. Yue Peng immediately got angry and asked if he didn't know the law at all. How dare he even talk about the law? His words are truth, for he is the law here. These 3 mongrels don't know Brother Jun, so they must enlighten them. They asked for an opportunity to give them a lesson. Jun's brothers want to teach this boy a lesson. The man is just worried that he'll run away easily. This situation needs that same old servant to teach these arrogant people a lesson. They are too confident, which means they must have support. The protagonist orders the general to ask who they are. A general immediately asked who they were and where they were from. The man called them children of the dog and asked if they thought they deserved a response. He should drop down immediately, and then he would spare them from death. If they are lucky, they will be able to learn about him in the future. This brother is really a kind and understanding person. Jun brushed it off and said that this man is flattering him too much. He was even embarrassed. These guys are too arrogant. He even wondered if they would have those same arrogant expressions on their faces when he ISO beat them. But the main character stopped him. Since he refused to introduce himself, the kid decided to do it first. The protagonist introduced himself to Lu Shufu, who is a council member and an elder of his family. The kid just believes that this arrogant bastard is not afraid of him, but he only laughed. Even if it was that emperor, he still wasn't afraid. This young man would like to ask what his family's position is. After all, for some reason he dared to speak so brazenly. As it turns out, he is the son of Zhizhou. That is, he is the son of the county chief. The main character immediately asked if Gay Legion was his father. How dare that little bastard speak his father's name? He's definitely sick of living in this world. Liu Xiufu once said that Gelijun is a good person. Therefore, it is unclear why he has such a good-for-nothing son. But since the eldest in his family is Liu Xiufu, he will forgive this guy. If they kneel before him, he will let them go. He's a little too cocky. Isn't he afraid that the elder of his family will accuse his father? But the man laughed even more from this. Considering the nocturnal situation, even Emperor Liu Sui dare not accuse his father. This bastard, who is the common son of the little boss, thinks too much of himself. The little emperor is hiding on Zhou Island and has to rely on the army and supplies of the Legion. Has he made a mistake somewhere? The protagonist ordered to beat them, tear their clothes, and then tie them up, and let one go away to tell about it. They immediately went to do his bidding. The general and the old man quickly dealt with them. The man who ran away told them to brace themselves, and he would bring the Lord here. Looks like the bastard doesn't want to show off anymore. Jun asked how this bastard even dares to hit him. His father would kill this man. But it's time to strip it down, because the show is just getting started. The guy asked what they were doing, and asked to keep his clothes on. He asked me not to use force and to be gentle. The general replied that it was very disgusting and started punching him in the face. He ended up being completely stripped and tied up, just like the main character said he would be. The guy started mocking him, talking about just looking at himself from the outside. It suits him very well to look like that. A crowd had gathered for this spectacle of lied and talked about the misfortune that was going to befall them. When Mr. Gay finds out about it, they'll be in trouble, so they'd better ignore it. And so his father finally arrived. As soon as he saw what had become of his son, he immediately ordered that the fetters be removed from him. He also asked who had dared to do it. The man pointed to the main character and his minions, and the main character said hello to Jinzhou Mr. Gay afterwards. He immediately asked who this guy was and what he had to do with Master Liu, but the kid only grimaced and told him to guess. This man was immediately thrown off his horse. The master was immediately approached and asked if he was all right. Mister, he asked who dared to attack an official. If Gelijun doesn't recognize this old man, he won't recognize the emperor either. The man immediately recognized the Liu elder standing in front of him. He immediately bowed and replied that this unworthy one recognized the emperor. His men also didn't expect to see the emperor himself here. Gelijun immediately told them to kneel down. Everyone immediately greeted the emperor. I think Mr. G finally recognized him. He began to ask the emperor to pardon his son. His son is stupid. The man was careless and insulted the emperor himself, so he asked for pardon. The guy is merciful, so this time he will forgive them. But the master cannot discipline his own son. Only the protagonist can help him to do that. Mr. G thanked the emperor for not killing his son. Zhao Dongting said, "Go to the palace." Mentally, he called the guy a little bastard. They can no longer retreat. The heart of the army was determined by the heavens, but the main strength was the hearts and determination of the people. He must somehow convince the people to continue to rely on the Southern Song dynasty. He also thought about Zhang Shiji. He had been good at it in the past. Perhaps he could still bring back the motivation for people now. He will leave the motivation of the people to this man. The protagonist has worked hard and now it's time for a vacation. Suddenly, a messenger arrived at the emperor's door. He reported that he had important news. Dozens of people saw a yellow dragon appear in the sea. Legends do say that the celestial dragon's counterpart lives in the seas. They arrived at the sea. The man asked who among them here had seen a dragon. All three unworthy and lowly people saw a huge golden dragon. But does the dragon really exist? He thought that it was set up by Zhang Shijie to inflame people's heart. But it was still a mystery whether there was a dragon here or not. Zhao Dongting swept up that when the dragon reappeared here, the Song dynasty would be exalted. The gods had marked these beasts, and with their help, he would be able to drive out the usurper and restore the mountains and rivers. In the future, the island would be renamed Xianlong for Togo, so that not even a trace of the Yuan dynasty would remain. Suddenly, the woman claimed that the dragon had shown itself again. There was indeed a huge golden dragon, just like the others said. He splashed water on the people. The guy wants to get a closer look at that dragon. He noticed the horns on it. The guy's point is that it's just a huge snake. But it's amazing that snakes have horns, or maybe it's just a tumor. Even the boy picked up on the fact that it was a dragon, looking at its horns. It was a true yellow dragon that was able to sense the Dragon Emperor's dragon soul. It most likely came to the Emperor. The boy ordered to tell the humans to stay out of the way of their dragon. If that snake bites someone, or if it dies, the men's resolve will fall again. If it doesn't fold, then all his efforts will be shattered. And so the huge snake or dragon swam away. The man began to praise the emperor again. Since the heavens favored them, the Song dynasty would prosper. He ordered to immediately gather soldiers and horses, for the time has come for the destruction of the Yuan dynasty. Mr. Su is the only one who can accomplish this task. He thanked the emperor for his trust and replied that he would not let him down. The rest of the division heads are preparing for war. They must prevent a retaliatory attack by the usurper from the Yuan dynasty. He must raise the resolve of the people, idea to the maximum, and overthrow the Yuan dynasty. He also ordered these guys to plant mines. The southern army of the Song dynasty had experience with firearms before. They also quickly learned and mastered his innovation. Suddenly a man arrived with a report that something was wrong in the barracks. Some woman is causing trouble. She said she wanted to see the emperor. The boy ordered him to take him there now. Meanwhile, the girl sat on a mountain of soldiers and asked who would be next. To him, her forms appeared familiar. The protagonist told her to stop. The girl asked if he wanted to fight her. That cheeky girl doesn't even know who's standing in front of her right now. But the kid told him to cool it. He asked who the girl was and why it was so noisy. As it turned out, her name was Yue Wu, and she wasn't making a fuss. The girl just came to see the emperor. The protagonist replied that he was the very emperor, and also asked what she wanted from him. It also remained a mystery to him. How does this girl know that he is here? A couple days ago, her sister saved the emperor. It turns out that the very girl he liked last time is her sister. The protagonist asked where she is now. Yue Wu replied that she's at home watching their father. He asks if it's because he wants to reward her. He also asked why Yue Wu was looking for him. As it turned out, sister ordered her to work with the emperor. Or rather, Yue Wu asked for a chance for herself to protect him. This little one probably doesn't know what kind of killer organization she's from, and why she was helping these bad guys in the first place. If she really killed a Sun Dynasty emperor, wouldn't she be a great sinner? Her punishment would be to serve the emperor. Zhao Dongting asked why her sister didn't come to him herself. Yue Wu could have taken care of her father by herself. The girl replied that it was none of his business. Her fighting skills are unrivaled in the world. She was only just a little inferior to her sister. She was determined to become his bodyguard. But the protagonist replied that there was no need for that. She could go back to her home. His grandfather is with him now. He just doesn't want anyone suspicious around him. The skill that Grandpa Li showed is a true rarity in this world. So he doesn't even need this wench. But she took his hand and asked the emperor, otherwise sister will scold and punish her. In that case, he offered her to be his personal maid. First, he would allow this girl to get close to him, but she didn't agree. The girl explained that maids are forced to sleep with their master, and he is the emperor. She should also be well aware that they are all adults, and he's only 9 years old for a minute. He allows her to join him at the palace. Then he slowly figures out what they are up to. The protagonist wondered what her dear sister's name was. He wondered what their goal was. He holds her hands, but asks her sister's name. This emperor clearly has ill intentions. She replies that her sister's name is Yue Chan. He immediately started repeating her sister's name. The emperor also asked this little girl where her sister is now. He wants to invite their whole family to the palace as well. But she's already big, so there's no need for the emperor to call her little. And her sister is not coming. All because she's getting married to a gorgeous man in a few months. He really hadn't expected such news. The guy immediately asked if her sister liked the man. The girl replied that sister had not seen him yet. They say he is a very handsome, romantic, and talented man. Since she's not in love, he still has a chance. A man has arrived with bad news. The custom-made clay goodies were stolen during transportation. He asked the emperor to return to the palace and hold a meeting on countermeasures. He ordered their cargo to be guarded like the apple of his eye. The clay pots are not jewelry and are of little value. These people are deliberately interfering with their plan. This place is near the sea, and in that sea, pirates are rampant. He asked permission from the emperor to kill these pirates. The main character likes his eagerness, but he asked if the general knew their whereabouts at sea, and who the pirates were who had taken the ship, and where they were now. The man replied that he didn't know that, but there's no need to make things so complicated. The guy told Yuwu not to be rude, but she has a plan. He should just send another bigger ship so that it gets attention and news of it spreads. You should also send martial artists after the ship by boat. They should wait for the pirates to loot the ship and return to their hideout. Then their men will attack and fight these pirates. This little girl has so many ideas. Yue Peng asked how on earth she knew the pirates would take the bait. For the last few years, the government has been concentrating on countering the UN army and has long lost sight of the pirates. They have been at sea for more than a day and have lost their vigilance. Zhao Dongting said to stick to this plan. He is assigning this matter for the general. The Emperor will allow him to lead and oversee everything. He will do his best to justify the Emperor's trust. Today, the price of the cargo will be transferred on this ship, and it is extraordinarily valued. So they must make sure that pirates never rob it. The main character wondered what happened to Yue Pen. He was always uncomfortable when his grandfather wasn't around. Whereupon he heard shouts that the murderers were here and must be caught. The guards immediately ran to see what was going on, but as soon as they went out, they were immediately killed. The candle went out. 2 men swung the doors open. There was already some sort of silhouette standing behind the guy. It was Yue Wu who asked not to say anything. Intye replied that there were too many mercenaries, and they would go through the back door. The dog emperor was here. The man yelled for them to stop them. The girl said to leave. There are too many of them, so she won't be able to contain them for long. They have nowhere to run, so death is inevitable. The girl also noticed that there was a cliff here. They also had guns launched at them. Yinner covered him with her body, after which they all fell off the cliff. The Empress Dowager slapped the man in the face and replied that he was in charge of the army that was supposed to protect the Emperor. Doesn't he know how to guard and protect? He knelt down and begged the Empress Dowager for forgiveness. The man begged for a chance to find the Emperor in person. The Emperor is still a child, after all. The Empress Dowager swept up that he should find the Emperor. They can't let him die, so they just have to save him. A man has arrived with bad news. The ministers are still discussing how to save the Emperor, so they can't take any chances. But there's another big problem. If it's not a serious enough problem, his clan will face serious punishment. Battle report received. The Yuan army attacked the volunteers on the west road of Guangzhou. The flames of war are flaring up. The Yuan army is getting close. The Yuan army is closing in, so she didn't even know what she should do. Her son's whereabouts were unknown, and the explosives still hadn't been produced. First, she should calm down and talk to them. The yellow dragon belongs to their dynasty. Ai's son is the true Dragon Emperor. He will return safely and drive out the Yuan dynasty. She ordered Mr. Liu to deliver the orders of this palace to the residents of the Leizhou and quickly send troops to reinforce the defense of the island. This servant will take command. Mr. Zhang should pay attention to the armament. Mr. Yang is in charge of evacuating people from the island. And Mr. Su must surely find the Emperor. The Empress Dowager has decided to rest, and they can go. But inside she sobbed at the fact that her son was missing, and his life and death are unknown. And the Yuan army is going to attack, and her clan will die. She just didn't understand where her son was right now. The Empress Dowager was informed that Lord Van wanted to see her. The woman allowed him to enter. This servant is incompetent, and only just now learned that the assassins have high martial arts power, and most likely the Ulin martial technique. Moreover, paying attention to their accent, it is likely that they are Leizhou people. Is it really related to Geilijun? But the servant doesn't know the answer to that question. The Empress Dowager has ordered to go and find out. Now that the Yuan army is attacking, we need to know if they have any allies here. Yue Wu didn't know what they would do if the Emperor didn't wake up after being poisoned by the knife. If it wasn't for Yinner's profound internal martial skills, she probably wouldn't have woken up either. The girl heard some sound. It was the same serpent. But the girl immediately recognized this snake because it saved her and her sister when they were children. This snake has been their friend since childhood, and still is. Suddenly, this serpent approached the Emperor. Suddenly, he had something. This is the core of the Xiaojin known as Neidan. Xiaojin is the 1,000-year spirit of the snake. It is said to have the ability to neutralize any poison. He wants to save the Emperor. The girl didn't understand why on earth the serpent had stopped moving. Yinner gave him that core. A familiar picture appeared before him. The guy didn't understand how he died again or who he was. The name Zhao Dongting popped up in his mind. But he is not that person at all. He's the Emperor of the Song Dynasty. The main character is a real dragon emperor. Everyone was glad he had finally opened his eyes. His head was splitting and the guy asked what was wrong. Last night he was stabbed by the killer's poisonous knife. This snake spit out its own core to flush out the toxins. He owes his life to that snake. He'll never forget it. When the guy comes back, he'll be sure to build a temple for him. But the Emperor still hasn't recovered from his injury, so he shouldn't move around too much. They are now in the south of the island. When she was young, she often came here to play with her sister and the snake. It was only because of the Emperor's negligence that such a disaster happened. He didn't expect that the assassins would take advantage of it when the grandfather and martial experts weren't around. Everything those girls and the kite had done for him, he would remember for the rest of his life. He also realized that Yinner was also injured when she was protecting him. So the protagonist asked if she was okay. The girl explained that she has great inner strength, and this wound and poison are nothing to her. The emperor is still young and not trained in martial arts. He has no inner strength and almost died. Fortunately, his majesty was healed. The wound on his body no longer hurt, and his tribute tang felt hot. This core seems to be working wonders. Since everything is fine, they'll go back to the palace. But suddenly he felt dizzy. Then he lost consciousness. They were able to return to the palace after all. Fortunately, her son returned safely, and the Empress Dowager apologized that there was nothing she could do. Zhao Dongting asked why he was here. As soon as the emperor woke up, she told the doctor to examine him. The emperor is now well, and the Empress Dowager can be at ease. It's so good that he's okay now. Thanks to Yinye and Yue Wu for bringing him back. He asked what had happened to the Sun Dynasty during his absence. Rumors appeared to report that the Yuan army attacked the West Guanan Road and attacked the civilian volunteers in Tianzhou. Zhang Huangfeng and Li Hen's army of the Yuan Empire is approaching Leizhou. The Yuan army shouldn't be approaching Leizhou so quickly. Does it cause a butterfly effect? And the guy asked how many troops they had. The Empress Dowager replied that they had 50,000 men and horses. They seem to want to defeat the island in one fell swoop. It's good that they've started training soldiers and horses and organizing armaments. But now there are only 20,000 soldiers on the island. He needs to think about the way forward. He also told Grandpa Li and Yue Pen to come here if they came back. These rumors welcomed the emperor. Zhao Dongting asked how the plan was going. 6 bandits have robbed the ship, and they are all powerful. There are likely thousands of people in their hideout. This old servant hurried back because he was afraid of acting carelessly. Since these were important items, the old man thought that the emperor would want them back. But they will not do that, for there are many pirates there. If they fight now, they will have to disperse their troops, and they might lose men. The numbers of their army and the Yuan army already have a big gap. Therefore, the return of the potteries can be put aside for now. Their army is already at a disadvantage. Therefore, if there were no clay pot explosives, the situation would be very dire. They sagged the emperor to think about it again. The pirates won't be able to use it, and the shipment of clay pots he had ordered earlier was 2 months away. The Yuan army would be coming soon. The pirates won't be wiped out anytime soon, so they can only think of other options. He ordered Yue Pen and Wang Wen to immediately take people to Leizhou and Huangzhou. They should buy up all the earthenware from the workshops or in the homes of the locals. The more the better. This is a very important matter, so the military Zhou states will go with them. They must be sure to carry the earthenware. Also, Yue Pen has something else to tell him. The emperor's assassin has been killed. But suddenly someone shouted that they knew who the murderer was. They spoke with a Luzhu accent, and they must be their people. Yue Wu wanted to check it out. She would definitely crush them to reduce her hatred. But the most important thing right now is to deal with the Yuan. If the emperor doesn't want to capture the assassin, she'll turn to her future brother-in-law for help. He's in the #1 Leizhou sect, and there are many martial arts experts there. Perhaps Zhao Dongting is simply unable to deal with such a small thing. How in the world does this maid dare to talk like this? The Empress Dowager ordered her to be taken away, but he immediately reassured his mother. This girl is just worried about him. It's not like he said not to catch them. It's just that the Yuan army is coming up now, and catching the assassins is not the most important thing at the moment. If her sister was here, she would agree with the emperor's opinion. Her sister didn't send her to the palace with the Sun Dynasty just to protect the emperor. But she'll go along with it. When they find those assassins, she will take care of them herself. Zheng Hongfan moved so fast that if they had her explosives, there would be a chance to win. But he didn't know what he would do if Yue Pen didn't return in time. 10 days later, Chaozhou border, Zheng Hongfani and his deputy, whose name is Li Hen, were there. It would take them half a day to reach Luzhou. Supposedly, the news has already spread. Li Hen said, "Brother Hun Fang is really great. Although the Song Emperor rules the west and east road of Guanan, their foundation is still not strong and their men are unstable." This campaign spread the news of how powerful their army is. Many cities surrendered without a fight, which saved a lot of effort. He realized that Brother Li was leading to the fact that there would be Li also with Zhaozhou and Leizhou. Perhaps even the city of Guangzhou will do the same. The Sun Emperor is still a small child, and maybe he is hiding in his dwelling, trembling with fear. The kid sneezed. Someone is definitely saying bad things about him. Is there an emperor has a cold? Then it is not too late to go back to the palace and dress warmer. Yue Wu replied that it is definitely Hong Fan saying such things about the emperor. Suddenly he also sneezed. The protagonist replied that he didn't have a cold at all. He offered to see how they had prepared for the battle. Everyone was saying that Hong Feng's army was strong because he had 50 soldiers. But the young emperor only has 20,000, so he will definitely lose. How dare this impertinent man say such things here? They immediately bowed and replied that that was not what they meant. Such rumors were spreading through the island. They bade the emperor pardon them. The protagonist asked why this kind of rumor was going around the island and had not yet been quelled. He ordered them to do so, and also to interrogate them. You're savvy that they need to find a way to boost morale. A messenger has arrived with an urgent report. Iona's army arrived at Leizhou. Mr. Liu has been working with Li Jun in Leizhou, but he hasn't returned for several days. Li Jun delayed without giving an answer. When the Yuan army arrived, Li Jun opened the gate, and then he met with Hong Fan and Li Heng. By now, the boy also realized that this was the end of the Song dynasty. There was another report. General Yue returned with a serious injury. They went straight to the general's office. The girl checked to make sure he wasn't in danger. Yue Pen came back alone after being wounded, so the pots weren't returned. He had done so much, and would he not even be able to change history? The general said that while they were transporting the pots, they were attacked. Fortunately, Lord Van Xingwang was able to save most of the pots due to timely reinforcements. Gay Legion's rebellion was a serious matter, so he hurriedly returned to the emperor. Suddenly the general lost consciousness. The general is just overworked. Gay Legion doesn't support them, and even hinders his own empire. The new guy doesn't think he's going to attack Dongzhou Island with the Yuan army. If he surrenders to the Yuan army now, Hong Fan will be the first to fight him. He must want to wait it out and see what happens, preserving his strength. He ordered General Yue to watch over him. Also, Mr. Zhang must bring 5,000 soldiers to meet Mr. Wang to accompany him. They must return the pots both safe and sound. The Emperor's new weapon is so powerful that even if there are fewer of them, still the Yuan army won't be able to handle them. The two masters, Zhang and Wang, are loyal to His Majesty. They will do their best to protect the pots, so the Emperor need not worry. In his time, the explosives he made might not mean much, but in ancient times, it should be powerful. However, they still need to think of tactics. He ordered Yue Wu to go to the armory and order the people there to speed up. Yinner should gather the ministers in the Great Hall to discuss strategy. The Yuan army defeated the Paozhou. He is already sure that they are all aware of it. Gay Lingjun, governor of Leizhou. He asked what they were going to do about it. Qi Shucai, who is the chief of the Leizhou army, replied that the Sum army had suffered heavy losses. They should seize the opportunity and capture their emperor. Liu Hongji, who is the general of the Leizhou army, replied how dare he even say such a thing. He also called the man a traitor. They are Song generals who are paid by the court. Therefore, how can he even say such treacherous words? And since he's a Sun general, why wouldn't he go when Lu Sufu asks for help? Because he's in the middle of something. Gay Lingjun wanted to remind them all. In these years of war and chaos, the court could not allocate any salary. Their stipends are paid from the hands of this place. Gay Lingjun gonna lead a group of subordinates to rebel against the court. The decision in the hall has already been made. If he voices his stance, he can drag his cronies down together. Why doesn't he pretend to agree first and then come up with a solution? And General Liu Hongji is also willing to follow orders. Years of caring for this man were not wasted. He wondered what weapons the emperor had developed that required so many pots. He sent to destroy some of them. When the Sun and Yuan armies are weakened, they will take the opportunity to capture the Sun Emperor and send him to the Yuan Emperor for merit. The meeting is over, so they can disperse. But Lord Liu remains. The Lord asked if His Excellency wanted anything else. Because of the birth of the child, his wife has always been weak, and in previous years the birthday party was barely organized. Lord Liu's wife is invited to help this year, so he asked if Lord Liu would mind lending her for a few days. If it's not too much trouble, I don't mind. The man tried to hide his rage. He and his wife were so in love that they refused to take a concubine, even though they had been married for 10 years without a child. It was up to the Lord Liu to decide whether his wife would live or not. There's something special about ink. Ink doesn't fade even if exposed to water. He will put the letter in Boar's mouth and let He deliver it. But the master's wife is still in Gaelijun's hands. The servant, whose name is Si, replied that the master had asked him to send the letter. He wanted to refuse, but he had to obey. Si is still young and doesn't know much about chapters. He and his wife have wanted to take him in as their adopted child for a long time, and he knows that she calls his wife Mom in private. When he and Ge Lijun go to the island, he must immediately rescue his wife. Bauer the cat came to his feet, and he entrusted her with the letter. He also put the bank book in the house on a shelf in the study. His mother may be on the road, so he must be careful and take good care of her. The guy asked why he was saying that. It's not like he's going to die. The Lord asked if Sai could call him daddy. In the end, the guy replied, so this old man doesn't bother. The next day, there were a lot of ships there. The protagonist will allow wizards to build telescopes, so they won't be afraid whether it's an enemy or not. Workers were burying mines. Fortunately, most of them were laid down before the Yuan came, and that should give them a chance to win. The Yuan army still thinks the SS Sun dynasty is as fragile as paper. They will pay the price for that. A man reported that the emperor wanted to see darts from Leju Condon's store. It's amazing that during this war, anyone else wants to see him. The protagonist ordered the man to be brought here. Yin reported that Darts was dealing with the murders. In the girl's hands was the very same cat. The girl replied that she was interested in sending a letter from General Liu of the Leju army. She asked to see this letter. Ge Lijun wants to invade the island after the battle between the Su army and the Yuan army. Lord Liu pretended to agree. Mr. Ji deliberately destroyed their pottery workshop to guarantee the Yuan army victory. The enemy has more than 50,000 soldiers, including the Leju Flying Army, the Dinghai Navy, the Weiwu Army, the Huzhou Army, and the Hu Jintao Army. Each army has more than 10,000 men. The Sung dynasty is on the brink. He said he could come back first and then wait for the reward after the war. The minister began begging the emperor to leave the island. The Empress Dowager has ordered that the emperor be taken away from here and hidden. The AI family will remain on the island to participate in the battle. Their first reaction was precisely to protect the emperor. Even the Empress Dowager was in favor of it. Even though he respected the empress, he didn't consider her a mother. She knows that staying here is suicide. She has been very afraid of losing her son since she was last attacked, and is very glad he survived. Even though it's sad, it makes people very happy to see him grow. The Empress Dowager ordered to help and support the emperor. He always liked the patriotic plot of the loyal monk in movies or games with a historical plot, which went through the superiority of modern humans even though they are en peace. But this time it's different. He has to stay here. He has to think hard again, and there has to be some way to overcome these difficulties. He will not leave. This boy is a true dragon emperor, so why should he let the Yuan army destroy the Sun dynasty? The man reported that the rebel Fang Wenhu had come to deliver a message. Now he is the messenger of the Yuan, so why should he be afraid to come? Therefore they should hurry and release him. It turns out the rebels know Li Yuanshu. He was very arrogant, and they must have thought the protagonist would give in. The group of ministers also wanted him to run away from here. For now, he would just take advantage of this situation to show his determination. He ordered to kill this traitor on the spot. Fang Wenhu replied that they wouldn't dare to kill him. The protagonist replied that he was also a Sun general, but now he was a traitor for surrendering to the Yuan dynasty. It is not right to order to speak insolently to the emperor. What was the use of letting such an unfaithful and unjust man live? He ordered him to be executed. The man said that both armies were fighting and they shouldn't kill him. But he didn't even have time to finish his sentence. The emperor is just speeding up the process, so they shouldn't worry. He will now compose a letter to summon King Wentian Shengqingyai Qin Li, so someone must hand them over. Yue Peng and Wang Wen go with him to discuss the strategy to fight the enemy. The emperor asked him and Mr. Wang to lead an army of 5,000 men. The enemy had more men and should attack when they had not fully landed. There are so many enemies here, but if they don't fight, this city will be overrun, and their loved ones will be mocked by the Yuan. So we must destroy the Yuan troops at all costs. The man ordered a quick release of arrows to support the units on the shore. The ship is too far from shore to reach the enemy. Most ships can't get any closer to shore. It is too shallow. If they go too close, the ship may sink. Yopeng immediately attacked the man. He impaled him with his spear. They must roll up their hands and stand her up to defend their homeland. The man reported that more and more enemy soldiers were coming ashore, and General Yue ordered everyone to follow him. Enemy soldiers are heading for the mountain range. They must not let them escape. The entire enemy army is now entering the mountain range. They must prepare, ignite the gunpowder to block the entrance. The main camp of the Sun Army? The numbers of the Allied army are slowly dwindling. He had the figures to carry out his entire plan. There was an explosion, and some of the soldiers got caught. Moreover, as Hu Luguo succeeds, Huanglong mountain boys will stabilize. They just have to wait for the good news. The Yuan army that stood in the way of Hulugu was destroyed by his army. Isn't this man even willing to die for the Imperial Yuan court? This general is talking nonsense. The size of the Yuan army is many times larger compared to the Sun army. So how could she have lost it all? The Sun army blocked the Yuan army's entrance like catching a turtle in a jar. Otherwise, why wouldn't she just come to rescue this man? Just proved that the Jun army in Hulugu is asking for help, so everything he said was true. His army has suffered heavy casualties. If he returns, he'll have to kill himself because of the Emperor's order. He shouted that his army would admit defeat. He ordered everyone to put down their weapons and surrender. A wise person understands and submits to circumstances. He really dared to give up. But did he only pretend to give up? There was already a soldier standing behind him too, who wanted to strike him, but it didn't work out. If he teamed up with the soldier behind him, the man would still be able to single-handedly slaughter them both. It will instill fear in the enemy, and therefore a high possibility of surrender. If they don't surrender, the man will just wait for them to come and help him kill them all. He'd better save himself and his troops' lives. The man shouted that Wan Yuanzhang had betrayed his people. But this idiot doesn't even realize that this battle is lost anyway. If they even kill the enemy general, can they even survive the surrender? The Yuan army was isolated without any hope of help. If they continued to resist, they would simply wait for their death. They would be better off asking for their weapons and surrendering. The man proved that the battlefield had been cleared. In this battle, and their army captured 17,000 men from the Yuan army. This resulted in 267 warships in their hands. They gained a total of 3,000 war horses, and the weapons and armor they obtained were incalculable. But the Sun army had lost 7,000 men. He ordered that the families of those killed in battle be given twice as much money as usual. In the future, the country will arrange appropriate jobs for these children. As for their sudden surrender, we need to find out what they are thinking of doing. He wants to reduce the Guy family's traveling expenses. If they want to stay, then let them serve them. But those road expenses will just go to those tricky Yuan. They don't have enough resources to get them to individual neighborhoods and make them do black jobs. If they are fired, they will go after the common people. They shouldn't have to worry about silver. Right now, what the Sun army lacks is provisions. Those people who betrayed the Sun and joined the Yuan should not be accepted. His Majesty the Emperor's words will be carried out. Yue Wu's sister also has something to say. Since Yue Chan has come here, they should invite her in. The commoner Yue Chen salutes the Emperor. But the protagonist told her to stand up, for there is no need for excessive politeness. Since he was in Luzhu, then he had not forgotten about her. He didn't think that she would come and find him. Gei Lijun has concentrated his forces and will attack Naozhou Island the day after tomorrow. He also wants to take the opportunity to kill the Emperor. The girl decided to stay here all to protect him, but the same thing happened last time, because of the serpent gave his life. The girl immediately said not to say that. Yue Chan asked what happened to the snake and what sister was hiding from her. The Emperor was fatally poisoned on a deserted island. The serpent gave his core to help the Emperor neutralize the poison. But he eventually died. She really didn't expect her childhood friend to die. These girls are grieving. If last time was really caused by Gei Lijun, then it doesn't matter who it was. The main character won't let him go. One day later, dawn. There are many generals and soldiers in their army. The army on the island will surely be scared and won't be able to stand for long. They will burn the island and destroy them in one fell swoop. His father made that idiot study, but he just went to brothels. The man explained to the young master that there were many hard rocks on the island. The damage would be minimal if they attacked with fire. He would never have thought that a man as smart as himself would have a stupid son. Cold wants to lure out one half of the troops of the Feiqian army and the Dinghai army. But he doesn't want Liu Hongqi to find out about it. It's possible that she'll get angry for it, but Gei Lijun detained the man's wife and sent a few men to watch his mansion. Dinghai's army is a reliable ally. They will listen to his orders. He won't be able to abandon his wife and troops for Zhao Dongting, the commander of the Leizhu Feiqian army, Liu Hongqi. His wife has been detained and is being pressured by the Dinghai army to force him to secede and distance himself from the Feiqian army. Leizhu Dinghai's army chief said to move out quickly. A halt could delay plans. He wants the lives of his wife's subordinates to be preserved. The Feiqian army is with him, so he ensures they can do all his bidding. He also hopes that Xian will be able to save his wives. Gei Lijun intimidates the youth and calls the troops to mutiny. This is a sin that does not follow heavenly laws. Confucius said that people with high ideals will not seek survival by harming others, but rather seek death for a just cause. He wants everyone to follow his example and behead this traitor. The man shouted for this lord to stay away from him. He also ordered the army to detain him. He hopes his brother soldiers will join him to defend the Sun Empire. The army had fallen into a trap and didn't lose 2,000 men. Gay Legion didn't understand at all how an ordinary trap could kill so many people. The man replied that this thing was buried underground and one step could blow it up. This was the weapon that little Zhao Dongting had made from the pots he had asked people to buy. If he had known, he would have destroyed it long ago. The Fijian army was also being primed. The army had lost countless people. Liu Hongqi really dared everything on this. With the exception of 1,000 soldiers, there are only reserve troops left here. Calling them to fight against Liu Hongqi makes no sense. Zhao Hongfan is backed into a corner and won't agree to send troops. But he's not going to lose. What's important now is to capture Zhao Dongting alive. He said, continue to report on the situation at the front. They should also speed up the pace of the move. Dingai Army, Commander Wu Wenli. He ordered to attack the Imperial Palace and capture the Sun Emperor. For killing enemy soldiers, they will receive 10 taels of silver. Upon killing an enemy general, they would receive 10 taels of gold. If they capture the Sun Emperor alive, they will receive a title of nobility. But the weapons of the Sun Army are too powerful, so no one wants to moderate. Along the way, many of their brothers were blown to pieces. They heard their commander's orders, but suddenly he was killed. Feng Yang Zhang Hongwei, deputy commander. Gay Lijun sold his country to gain fame. Wenli is too greedy and ruthless. He really wants to attack the Emperor of the Sun Empire for the sake of it. In the past, the royal family had defeated the weaklings that were on Naozhou Island. Now he beheld this powerful weapon that attacked that island. All the units under the command of Zhen Hunfang belong to the Sun Emperor. This empire will regain its former glory. They can all join him and help the Sun Emperor. Zhang Hongwei explained that he was originally the deputy commander of the Fitian army. Now, as the vice commander of the Dingai army, he ordered the army to surrender to the emperor. They came here to tell the emperor that they have defected to Liu Hongzi's side. It is possible that there are other difficulties. Dingai's army has 10,000 soldiers. Their troops in the city also have 10,000. If they recruit more soldiers equivalent to the allied soldiers, it will be possible to contain the rebellion. If Liu Hongqi really wants to surrender, then success is guaranteed. He ordered Zhang to be brought in. He explained that Mr. Liu had told Gay Lijun to move his troops farther away from himself. This allowed them to find an opportunity to kill the general of the Dinghai army and seize the military leadership. Heaven sure was weakening them. On the table, Li explained that the surrendered soldiers and UN traitors added to Monarch Geli's soldiers. Now their number is 30,000 people. The Imperial Palace won't be able to feed them for too long. God in heaven sure doesn't let him save face. The prefectural magistrate controls his family and didn't even hesitate to take the general's wife as a hostage. Even under such circumstances, he risked sending a message to the emperor. After Togo's military power was reduced, he still remained loyal to the emperor and ordered the man to revolt in the enemy's country. He led the Faxian army to a fierce battle with the Dingai army. He and the general had always been loyal to each other, and their hearts were pure. No wonder this time, Jie Lijun has 6 paths and 2 ways to climb the hill, and the protagonist doesn't know how good Liu Junqi is either. Even if the army is replenished, the rations are enough for 5 days. This war should end sooner rather than later. He ordered to lead the men into the city. After that, Old Man Li should send someone to notify Liu Hongzi to stay there after the battle. Does His Majesty not believe? But you should not worry, because they have arranged a lot of traps on the island. Even if the main character personally went there, there is no guarantee that he will be able to avoid them. Thus, the army will not enter the battle. Old Man Li has extraordinary and excellent strength and pure heart, so he will not harm his family. If this child Zhao Dongting was not captured, it would be difficult for him to dispel the hatred of the 2 armies. He asked Qi Shukyu why he did not stop the Dinghai army. The road was littered with mines, and this road was the shortest route. Who would have thought they would surrender before his arrival? He replied that there were too many traps on the road, which delayed the war plan. He asked his brother-in-law to punish him. The man began by saying that his son has grown up to be a worthless man, and his brother-in-law interferes and angers him to death. The scout earlier reported that Liu Junqi won by a small margin, and still has 1,000 soldiers. Shukai should take Jun Er and 2,000 soldiers to keep an eye on Liu Hongqi. His brother-in-law told him to just watch. By the time the man was far away from him, he could do whatever he wanted. He would be able to find some pretty girls. They just need to wait patiently, because Zhao Dongting's rations and provisions won't last long. The day they run out of food, they will attack the city. His army plans to attack quickly, because there are only enough rations for a day or two. But the man replied that there was no need to worry. He had long ago prepared a ship on the western Leju River, which was already loaded with provisions. A man came running in with a report. He reported that the West River was attacked by the army, and provisions were all taken away. The enemy army in the palace is besieging their army, so what enemy army could there be on the Western River? The man replied that it was the flag of the Sum army, but the banner has a Wen symbol. These were, after all, the soldiers of Minister Wine Tianxian, who was supposed to be in Haichao. Ge Lijun ordered to prepare the soldiers and their horses, for they would immediately attack the city in 15 minutes. They should also inform the people that Zhang Hongfan and Li Heng would attack together. And what the man said earlier, he must not divulge to anyone. They're definitely finished. Wen Tianxian is famous for his strength. If he comes, Ge Lijun won't have a chance to survive. He must seize the only opportunity to strike. Zhang Hongfan will side with the one from whom he can gain more benefits. If he finds out about this incident, he will definitely not enter the battle again. The fewer people who know about this incident, the better. Everything was on fire. The enemy army is attacking, so it's unclear why the emperor is so pleased. Ge Lijun is in a big hurry to get to town. It must be because their Prime Minister Wen has come. But suddenly, the girl felt something and immediately pushed the emperor away. She was hit by a single needle. He immediately asked if Yue Chan was in order. This hidden weapon belongs to Shu Ling Bao. She didn't understand where this weapon came from here. Another girl appeared there, and Yue Chan asked what her relationship was with Shuelin Bao of the Murong family. She's a smart one. It's possible that the assassination attempt last time was also set up by Shulin Bao of the Murong family. Did she really dare to hurt her sister? The emperor shouted for the guards to escort him. The stranger didn't think of giving up so easily. She threw those very needles again, but the old man successfully fended them off. The girl screamed that she had let the killer get away. It was the old servant who was guilty of a crime that even death could not atone for, having been late in saving the emperor. He has asked for his punishment. But did the old man need not apologize? The protagonist thanked that he blocked the weapon that was aimed at him. It was more important to deal with the rebel army and the Yuan army now. He doesn't know the situation of Yuo Pen and Wang Wen. He just hopes that nothing bad will happen. There are more soldiers climbing the city walls from the Leju army. He doesn't know if his brothers can hold out any longer. The generals and soldiers of the Yuan army captured, and inside the city, they must open the city door quickly and help them capture the city. Otherwise, they will be mercilessly punished by the military law. After they destroy the city, then these soldiers should just wait for their death. Inside the city, the captives revolted. The Sun Emperor has such courage and insight at a young age to carry out such a plan. The weapons he has made are also powerful. A surrendered Yuan dynasty general called Wanyan Zhang. Not to mention, Hongfan is not a rival of Bi Li. Hongfan will lose in this battle, and that's not good. Yan Zhang took the initiative to surrender to the Song dynasty, and certain will die if he returns. He ordered all the troops to halt. He was originally a soldier from the Jin country. After the country was destroyed, he surrendered to the Yuan dynasty, and then to the Song dynasty. If they rebelled this time, the Hong Fan would not let them go. He will not allow the city gates to be opened. He was listened to, though. Bad news was reported to the general. The Yuan prisoners inside have risen up. The general has given them good food and drink, and they still dare to rebel. He decided to go and kill them. He needs to take a group of soldiers with him, and this man will guard the gate. Next morning, they were sent to the battlefield to die for their country. They gave their lives as a tribute to courage. There are people he's never seen before, but they died for the protagonist's orders. They fought for him. They died for the Great Dream Empire. He could only defeat the Yuan and reclaim their homelands to vindicate those soldiers who shed their blood for the country. A soldier arrived at the emperor and reported that a ship had been sighted at sea. He ordered that the defenses be taken down immediately, and let the enemy enter the city. The minister thought His Majesty was thinking of surrendering, but he would not. Before the messenger from Liu Hongqi arrives, he will send orders to Prime Minister Wen to send some soldiers to protect the emperor. The ship at sea is undoubtedly Prime Minister Wen's men. A boat at sea shows the banner of the Great Sung Empire. It was indeed embroidered with the character Wen. Prime Minister Wen is a master of both pen and sword. He is brave and nimble in battle. As soon as the city gates open, The Leju army will besiege these pimps from the Yuan army in the city. The army will be in the front, and the prime minister will be in the back. This move of capturing the turtle in the jar is excellent. The little emperor clearly has a few troops left to guard the city, but they are letting people in for no reason because Wen Tianxian is here. This official wants the lord to personally lead the military company along with 10 military officials. He ordered the soldiers to quickly prepare the horses. He had never led a war before. Originally, there were some spies who said that Wen Tianxian had captured Leju and seized the rations on the West River. If Wen Tianxian set foot on this island, that man would escape. Although these 10 military officials are strong in terms of military might, but swords don't have eyes, and it would be better to add more human strength. And why doesn't the teacher realize that they will surely lose this war? He will leave everyone here, find his son, and flee across the sea when the time comes. Otherwise, they will all meet the pit. The man replied that he should hurry up and make them get ready. Also, he must bring the young master first. His army is doomed. Everyone on the island is the little emperor's men. No matter how strong they are, they might not be able to protect them. Unless a man captured Ge Lijun's son and handed him over to the Song army. Not only would that save his life, but it would also bring him fame and fortune. The young gentleman was surrounded. The man stopped. The boy shouted his father's name. He was told to get lost, for he didn't want to dirty his sword. Ge Lijun said that this guy can die, but he can't come back in disgrace. It's better for him to stay there and let himself be killed. But this kid doesn't want to die at all. The man explained to Master Liu that it wasn't easy for him to capture his son and force Ge Lijun to come. How could he even let him go so easily? But Liu Hongqi only struck him with his sword. The man didn't understand why he did it. Liu Hongzi called him an eyesore. He is an insignificant person who slips away and licks other people's shoes to gain fame. The man hugged his son and replied that the father was sorry. The father is good for nothing, and now they are surrounded. The son also does not want to die. But it was destiny's time. Ge Lijun had rebelled against the emperor, and the heavens would not tolerate it. This defeat has long been determined. Therefore, he has no right to say anything about time and fate. The southern song Fragile and Weak Oath of Allegiance to the Yuan dynasty is just a tradition. He was originally supposed to capture the Sun Emperor and quickly rise in status, not letting these inflexible people ruin his plans. But these short-sighted people would kill him today. And tomorrow, they would be destroyed by the Yuan army. When he left the army, he ordered someone to take his wife's life. He won, but he could not even protect his woman. Liu Hongqi immediately killed him. Prime Minister Wen Tianxiang arrived to see him. This official did not have time to help the emperor. When he reached the island, he was prevented by an enemy. He could not report to the emperor at once, and so he asked for a judgment. They are all officers who have accomplished great feats. No punishment is out of the question here. The emperor has ordered them to be quickly policed. Earlier, the emperor had ordered Sarah Liu and Prime Minister Wen to be brought here, but only the prime minister could be brought here. As for Sarah Liu, after killing Ge Lijun, he disobeyed the emperor's order and fled. People said that he hurriedly returned to Leju. Although this man has accomplished great deeds, he may have fled because of his guilty conscience. Besides, by doing so, he clearly puts the emperor below himself. But it's not at all what they think it is. This officer has trespassed without permission. If His Majesty wishes to punish him, he has no objection. Sir Liu didn't come back in a hurry to escape, but because of his wife. Before he died, Ge Lijun said he sent someone to kill his wife. Sir Liu could not accept this and returned to Leju. The emperor is indebted to this couple. Liu Hongqi cares for him first and foremost, and then his wife. He probably wouldn't have been able to control it if it wasn't for him. He decided to personally reward Sir Liu. But one must correct his mistake for trespassing, or other people would do the same. The emperor ordered the men to rise quickly and join them in their discussion of matters pertaining to their festive banquet. Repelling Hongfang, beheading Ge Lijun, and reclaiming Leju was only the first step to reclaiming their favorite mountains and rivers. To celebrate this victory, the emperor decided to implement a new system. Today, he will abolish the old laws and establish a new system to restore the glorious name of the great song. The emperor has such determination, so why don't the officials follow suit? He plans to abolish the left and right prime ministers, 3 major departments, 6 ministries, and 24 minor departments. These will be merged into the ministries of public affairs, military administration, and law. These ministries will handle the administration of state affairs, military affairs, supervision of officials and judicial affairs. National defense and foreign affairs will be part of the Ministry of State Affairs. All officials here are trustees of the emperor and have been given new positions. They will work to recover lost territories and fight enemies from the north. Minister Liu assisted and governed the state, and thus earned an award. The emperor gives him authority over the state affairs of North China. He will have full control over all ministries and all state affairs. Premier Wen fought bravely and vigorously against the Yuan and had great influence with the people. The emperor appoints him commander, and he will have full command of all the armed forces. The emperor knows that Minister Zhang has keen foresight, so they specifically set up a watchdog committee. And now the emperor appoints the minister to be the head of this committee and overseer of the officers. This official bows to His Majesty's favor. It's not easy to mull over your answers before dawn and then be forced to attend a banquet before the day begins. It's also not easy to deal with the officials, and now he has to go to the city gates to reward the soldiers. Being emperor is tiring indeed. Every general and soldier shed blood to protect the territories of the Great Sun. He raises this cup before all those present at the banquet, in honor of those who gave their lives for the great empire. The day will come when they will expel the Yuan, and the emperor promises to return their souls to their homeland. They decided to honor the dead. The second cup he raises in honor of everyone. All are faithful, righteous, and have defended the emperor. This is the greatest blessing for the empire. He promises that he will lead them to victory over the Yuan. When the time comes, he will grant them the title of Marquis, and they will return home in glory. Everyone thanked His Highness. This body is surprisingly easy to get drunk on. It hasn't gone 10 rounds yet, so it can't really go down. They won this war, and it was all due to everyone's hard work. The emperor will specially give them a title, and it will be the imperial army of the Huanglun of the Great Sun. Liu Hong is loyal and righteous. The emperor grants him the title of 4th rank general of the Huanglun army. He is in charge of collecting and dispatching the Huanglun army, in addition to those who defended Leizhou, which are the Dinghai and Feitian armies. The commander of the Yuan Feitian army was Zhang Hongwei. The emperor gave him the title of commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guard, which would protect the left flank. He had already begun to close his eyes, after which he fell asleep completely. In his sleep, he mumbled the name Yue-chan. As it turned out, the Empress Dowager had taken charge of rewarding the 3 armies at the city gates. The old man Li replied that the emperor had just had too much to drink and was fine. Also, he constantly calls out for Lady Yue-chan in his sleep. All the people present are people who practice martial arts, and their hearing is extraordinary, which means they also heard everything. Ye Wu also noticed that the emperor was constantly calling for her sister. She already wanted to make a risky assumption about the emperor. Everyone is wary, but the girl replied that the emperor must want to practice with his sister. They breathed a sigh of relief. The emperor is here, and his body is on fire. Yina realized that she should bring water to wipe him, and old man Li decided to bring soup for the emperor. They're gone. They really think Yue Wu is stupid. The emperor seems to be like his sister. Yue-chan immediately hit her on the head to stop her from talking nonsense. The emperor is still young. This is just the gratitude he feels for saving him. When the war is over, the emperor will return to Leizhou with his army. So they must never relax and must protect the emperor. She decided to go to look for her father. The people of Leizhou were forced to join the army to rebel. The emperor not only gave them money, but also let them go home and farms. The emperor is the saint of their homeland. They called him the great benefactor of Leizhou. Finally, they will have a good life in the future. They saw something coming. They were ships. Everyone immediately welcomed His Majesty the Emperor. He said they could go up. He noticed the condition his men were in. He has expensive horses and a magnificent carriage, while his men have both, but only shabby clothes. They are sick and hungry. This world is too oppressive, and can't he even change it? It's getting late, so they need to head to Leizhou as soon as possible. Have these people been so poor all this time? Because of the years of war that have left people without a livelihood, the fields are strewn with the bodies of the dead. In addition, when Gelijun ruled Leizhou, there were so many exorbitant taxes that people were conscripted into the army, making their lives even harder. But now that he has arrived at this place, then the emperor will be able to change the situation. After all, he has the support of the people. He was able to defeat the Yuan army and Gelijun, and he also created weapons. Therefore, the old man doesn't think that there is something that the emperor can't do. He is a graduate of the history department, since he crossed that border, then won the battle of the Southern Song Dynasty. He doesn't believe he can't change the horrors of this world. Also, the Emperor noticed how the two generals found common ground. It had only been a few days, and General Yue and Wan Yuanzhan already got along so well. The Yuan army persuaded the captives to open the city, and Wang Yuanzhan helped calm them down. That's probably fine. Keep this general for your own use. Unruly generals are prone to mutiny. Therefore, the emperor inquired why he was still here. Wan Yuanzhan replied that this minister was originally a general of the state of Jin. Then this state was destroyed even before the fall of the Yuan. This minister is asking the emperor to leave the Zhuzhen clan as a pawn. He is willing to serve and repay the favor at any cost, and will not hand over to his majesty. And the protagonist inquired as to what he wanted. He just hopes his clan will have a place to stay. Suddenly the man said, "Everyone disperse," as the emperor's carter passed by. Scary immediately grabbed this commoner who wanted to harm the emperor. The man must not allow him to speak either. So he ordered him to be killed quickly, for this fiend had surely come to massacre the emperor. He asked the emperor not to listen to the nonsense of that cursed Wu Shunchang. The man will sue him. One side risked their lives to report, and the other side wanted to kill the first side in a hurry. There seemed to be a problem with that. The emperor stepped out to ask the man what he wanted to report. His name is Zhao Hu. He's a farmer from Haikang County 2 months ago. His daughter-in-law went to the city to sell vegetables. Wu Shunchan saw that she was beautiful and took her by force. He went to Galijun to sue that damned official. He never thought that Galijun and that damn official were working together. Not only did they hold them both hostage, he also killed the remaining 12 people of the Zhao family. He escaped to Leizhou, but he was accused of murder and robbery, and was wanted by all government agencies. That servant could not see what kind of traitor was destroying the lives of the common people. That girl went to his mansion to report this man and threw herself into his arms. Thus, she became that official's concubine. It turns out he's the one with the Shunchang. The government office has evidence that is signed by this person. Therefore, everything the official said is true. But the man replied that he was forced to confess to the false charges under torture. They took the opportunity, while he was unconscious, to press his handprint and sign it. There's a real inconsistency in this case. If he is really a traitor, then he would not trap himself. Zhao Dongting asked what the Wu official had to say to this. Every official in Leishu knows about this case. This is a humble official who would never dare to deceive the emperor. The emperor has just arrived here, so he has already prepared a banquet for his arrival. Why don't they just behead this traitor so they can enter the city and have a feast? What this official said is a clear threat. If the protagonist doesn't obey, these guys will use devious means to mess with him. But they're too arrogant. He's not going to stay with someone who was with Galijin. That official still hasn't figured out the case. So the emperor announced who else wished to report. But everyone was silent. He hates those officials who oppress the common people. Therefore, they should not hesitate to speak about it today. Regardless of the rank and authority of the official, the emperor will support them. People immediately started accusing this official of usurping property, kidnapping his daughter, and for land grabbing. He wants to set up an oversight department in the prefectural government. If they have been treated unfairly or want to sue someone, they can go to the supervision department. Every official in Leizhou must first take a vacation and stay in their homes until the investigation is completed. But there are rules here. Threatening His Majesty is inappropriate. There are many capable people around the emperor. So no, but that you stay on the lookout for devious people. Many people want to sue this official. The emperor was clearly not joking when he said he wanted to punish corrupt officials. He ordered the guards to behead this official on the spot, which will serve as a warning to the others. His orders were carried out. Everyone rejoiced that the dog officer was finally dead. Zhao Dongting noticed that the appearance and mannerisms of the two people in the crowd were very different. They must be unusual people, but he decided not to think about it anymore. He ordered Yue Pen to quickly enter the city. The old man wondered if the emperor was tired on the way here. This mansion is more luxurious than the palace on the island. Also, the Empress Dowager has her own gift. But if the emperor is tired, this gift can wait. The more he sees the vulgar things Galijun has built, the more disgusted he becomes. Those people at the ferry crossing are sick while that man is so rich. The smell of wine and meat wafts from the houses of the nobles. But the poor people are dying of cold and hunger in the streets. There was nothing for him to do right now. Therefore, he inquired what kind of surprise the Empress Dowager had prepared. Yin-Er replied that His Majesty would find out soon. He really enjoys lounging in the pool. He told Grandpa Li to come over and massage his head, but a girl appeared beside him. The protagonist immediately ran out. He said there's a woman inside, and he was seen naked. This woman was appointed by the Empress Dowager for the Emperor. The Empress Dowager, too anxious. He's too young to just enjoy a woman. He said to send that woman away. He doesn't need that kind of woman. To the house next, the Empress Dowager has specifically ordered it. If he sends the girl away, she will never leave so easily. A maid called Yunjin came out to join them. His Majesty the Emperor is a hero and also has a legendary reputation. She has admired the Emperor for a long time. Therefore, the girl begs to be allowed to stay. He agreed to do it after all. A little while later, he was already lying in bed and didn't understand why he had to treat himself like a child. He'd been over 20 when he'd gotten here. That must be the behavior of this young body. He felt someone touch him. Zhao Dongting asked why she was here. Yunjin replied that she had come to warm his bed. The protagonist said to let go of his hand or he would call the guards. The girl replied that the Empress Dowager had ordered that no one was to enter here, no matter what happened in this bedroom tonight. Even if the Emperor rips his throat out tonight, no one will be hurt. She pressed him against her chest. His face flushed, and he was only a child. The girl noticed something was wrong with his face. His pupils changed. He told that girl to get out of here fast. She will immediately go and get someone. It was too painful. A man walked into him who apparently understood what had happened. He mentioned the snake that had given its life for the protagonist. If it is not stopped in time, the Emperor will definitely lose his mind. His body will explode and he will die. The protagonist noticed him right away. He threw himself into the attack. The kid also used his destructive power. The man kicked him in the leg. He needs to achieve harmony between body and mind. Zhao Dongting should watch over all the elements, perfect them, and make them his energy. And he needs to extract the primal energy of the world. He must concentrate his heart, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. The man advised to gather the elements together and match them with the 4 points. It is necessary to get rid of worldly problems in one's mind and achieve the immortal state. A collection of 3 colors, even though the internal force had passed through the meridians 5 times in a row, and only a few particles of it had entered the tribute Tian. This is the serpent's training. This power definitely belongs to a man not like them. It is spiritual power, has been gathered by the serpent over thousands of years. It has the supreme law of the Tao within it. He must get rid of extraneous thoughts and feel his law. All cultivators follow the laws. He also wondered what his law was. His brother and his girlfriend killed him. The aunt who helped them then was killed by brigands. His mother, who wanted to send him away before the war started. Yue Chan, who had saved him. Yin-Er and those who stayed by his side. The thin and weak citizens. The warriors who sacrificed themselves for the country. They came to his room in the morning. They clearly didn't expect this room to be in this condition. The guy explained that last night there was a masked expert who helped him channel his spiritual power. And he said something like, the Emperor was too close to a woman, which prompted him to tribute Tian. He also said something about the 5 breaths of mind concentration. He didn't understand why his power wasn't working now. Old man Leah thought that this kid was stuck in his dreams, so he would ask the doctor to examine him later. He also informed the Emperor that Lord Liu had brought his family to visit him. A little later, he went out to them. The Emperor had heard good things about them for a long time. Sir Liu is a very lucky man, and that's not even an exaggeration. The woman thanked His Majesty the Emperor for the compliment. The man remarked that his wife is an introvert, so the Emperor should stop complimenting her, because she might want to hide underground. The woman immediately asked what he was saying in the presence of the Emperor. Lord Liu's wife looks pretty and has a wonderful character. He thought it was worth rewarding her and making her a representative of women. In today's world, there are women who are even stronger than boys. But he didn't understand who the boy was, for they said they had no children. The Emperor asked who the young man was. Liu Hongqi replied that they had been married for many years, but they still had no child. He welcomed Shi into the Liu family as an adopted child. The cat that gave the Emperor the message was his idea. It was because of this that Shi and his wife managed to escape. Women don't play a high role in the ancient hierarchy, and it probably wouldn't be enough to just have a Liu wife as a role model. They take great care of the family, so he might as well reward the Xiand. He replied that this family is loyal and honorable. He ordered that 2 more tables be added to the celebration. He would like to invite them to the banquet. What they can drink in Leizhou is the result of their concerted action. If Liu Hongqi had not ordered people to pass on information and reduced Gei Legion's army, they would have suffered huge losses. Even though they are just citizens, they worked hard to help the Great Sun Dynasty. Lord Liu's wife left her life on the line and for loyalty. She is a role model for women in this country. She will be appointed Lord of the 4th rank with a reward of 100 taels and 5 maidservants. The woman thanked His Majesty the Emperor. Also, the idea of Lucy and to send the cat and deliver the message was great. It shows that he is a knowledgeable and intelligent person. The Emperor appoints him as the head of the Haikun County. Therefore, he better not let the Emperor down. She and also thanked the Emperor. When they arrived in Leizhou, the townspeople welcomed them, which was initially a joyous occasion. But on the way, he saw many weak, thin, tired, and exhausted townspeople. The supervision department of Leizhou should be made as soon as possible, for corrupt officials should be severely punished. Other things such as opening more ports, encouraging outside business, opening schools, all ministries and departments should not neglect it. His Majesty had indeed earned the title of Wise Emperor for a reason.